Happening right now, the killer of a Leawood lifeguard is in a Johnson County courtroom to learn if his sentence will be reduced. Benjamin Appleby was convicted of killing Ali Kemp back in '02. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 50 years. KCTV5's Abigail James has a look back at this case that most of us will never forget.
In 2002, Kansas State student Ali Kemp was beaten and strangled in the pump house of the Leawood neighborhood pool where she worked. Her accused murderer got a hard 50 prison sentence and today is asking for that sentence to be reduced.
To have a child of our community murdered at a local neighborhood pool in idyllic Leawood, Kansas was devastating to the entire metropolitan area.
Criminal defense attorney Veronica Dersch prosecuted the case against Benjamin Appleby, the man now in prison for the violent act.
It took us 2 years to find him. It took us 2 years to try him.
Kemp's father, who found her body, worked relentlessly with authorities on the manhunt, even helping set up a $50,000 reward fund and making the case the subject of billboards in America's Most Wanted segments.
This case was landmarked in that it's the beginning of using billboards to find suspected criminals.
It was 2 years before an anonymous tip led detectives to Appleby, who was living in Connecticut under a false name. It was found that he had active warrants in Connecticut for exposing himself.
They brought him up to the station in Connecticut and they said, while you're here, some Kansas detectives would like to speak to you. Do you want to talk to them? And he was arrogant enough to say yes. And that's where they got his confession.
Now 17 years after Ali Kemp's death, Appleby is appearing in court because he says his sentence was illegal.
In general, his arguments were that a jury should have found that the aggravating factors outweighed the mitigating factors.
Though Dersch says the hard 50 sentence, which means Appleby would get his first chance at the parole board in 50 years, is appropriate under capital crime.
If you got a sentence that was illegal, it can be corrected at any time. But Mr. Appleby's sentence was not illegal.
Now, according to Dersch, she says this is typical post-conviction proceedings and doesn't think anything unusual will occur. We do have cameras that are inside of the courtroom, and we'll have an update at 5. Abigail James, KCTV5 News.